Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom with Bob Olson, who will now introduce today's show and speaker.
Welcome to The Messenger, a program offered by Tony Szalkiewicz, featuring messages of amazing things happening in the Catholic Church. And now here he is, the messenger, Tony Szalkiewicz. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Good.
Very good. So we have a nice guest tonight, Bailey Zamiti. Zamiti? Is that how you say it? Bailey? Uh-oh.
I think she,
Bailey, are you there?
She probably hung up by mistake.
Oh, let's get her back. Well, okay. Let me see if we can get her back.
Here she comes.
Bailey?
Hello?
Yeah. How do you say your last name?
It's Zamiti.
Zamiti. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's
Sorry,
start
I think
with
the
this.
call failed there.
What happened?
I think the call failed for a minute.
Yeah, we didn't know if you hit a button or Bob hit a button or what. I know. But that's okay. Those things are going to happen anyways.
Yeah,
so,
we're all set now.
Huh?
I think we're all set now.
I have a little thing from Pope Pius X, and he says, Holy Communion is the shortest and safest way to heaven. There are others, innocence, but that is for little children. Penance, but we are afraid of it. Generous endurance of the trials of life, but when they come, we weep and ask to be. The surest and easiest, shortest way is the Eucharist, according to Pope Pius X. So there you have it. Here's a sure cure. Okay, hang on.
Cool.
A sure cure. 3 pastors in the South were having lunch and a dinner. One said, since summer started, I've been having troubles with bats in my loft and attic at church. I tried everything, noise, spray, cats, nothing seems to scare them away. The other said, yeah, me too. I have hundreds living in my belfry and in the Arctic attic. I've even had the place fumigated, and it won't go away. And the third said, I baptized all mine and made them members of the church. Haven't seen them back once since. So there you have it. So just baptize your bats and they'll never show up again. All right, so Bailey, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much to be here.
Yeah, I want to give you a little background information, and there will be an overlap as far as talking. So let me just, I'll put you on in a second. I just give everybody some facts about you. You're 19 years old. You live in Middletown, Connecticut.
Yes.
And you're a raising sophomore at Providence College in Providence, Rhode Island, majoring in English and French, a minor in Arabic.
Yes.
An active member of the Providence College Pro-Life Club, PC for Life, campus peer minister, intern at ABC's Women's Center in Middletown, Connecticut.
Yes.
And you aspire to have a career as a writer and advocate in the field of family policy.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty impressive. So tell me, okay, why don't you go ahead and run with it? Let's hear about your topic tonight and where you'd like to go with it.
Well, I think the topic tonight, initially we had talked about, the abortion issue. And
Right.
It's a very hard topic. It's a really hard topic, and I think the way to look at it is not necessarily as the abortion issue, but as the pro-life movement and the current success of the pro-life movement and the flourishing of that movement, which I was really not involved with until recently. I went to high school in Farmington, Connecticut, and my school was extremely very pro-choice inclined student population and very pro-choice inclined teacher, staff population. And I thought, I'm pro-life, at church they teach us, I'm Roman Catholic, so they taught us, pro-life is the right way, but it never really mattered that immensely to me. I felt that I didn't really know enough about it to tell anyone what to think. It seemed like an issue that had very little relevance in my life, which made me feel kind of like I had not a lot of right to have an opinion about it, since it really didn't affect me that much.
Right.
And then during my freshman year, at St. Pius, the 10th Art Church, we have the 2-year confirmation program. And my freshman year of high school, I met this woman named Christina Bennett, who came to speak to my confirmation group. So this was probably like 2012, 2013. And she came to speak to our confirmation group. And she spoke about her crisis pregnancy center, the ABC Women's Center. And it was in Middletown, which is where I live. So I thought that was really cool that there was this place near me that could give me more information about this issue. And she spoke about the pro-life movement from a perspective that I really had never considered before. She talked about the history of abortion. So I never really knew anything about it. I knew that it ended the pregnancy, but I didn't know, where people got abortions. I didn't know who got abortions. I didn't know anything about it. So she talked about Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, who is a quote-unquote birth control activist, providing birth control to primarily low-income and minority communities. And I had heard about it, but didn't really know too much about it. But she talked about this as more of a narrative, as how this narrative of her as a savior for minority and low-income women was not entirely true, and how that was really, there was the presence of a white supremacist agenda, in her work. And I was very shocked by this and this perspective that she was giving us. And she wanted us to challenge that narrative of what, Planned Parenthood stood for and what the abortion industry stood for. And I was very touched by that. And I was really touched by how she talked about abortion as a way to talk about the way we treat marginalized groups. Have respect for the dignity of the least among us. The poor, the homeless, the grieving, the sinners, and the unborn. And that really struck me. That has stuck with me for a really long time, the way that she addressed this. And I think that's what really made me interested in the pro-life movement. But still, I didn't really have a lot of friends who were pro-life. I had mostly friends who were pro-choice, and most of my teachers were very vocally pro-choice in high school. And so I never really felt like I could say anything. And then when I took U.S. history and we actually learned about Margaret Sanger my junior year of high school, we learned about her as a hero, and everyone was like, oh, there should be we should celebrate Margaret Sanger, and this is amazing. Planned Parenthood is so amazing. And I emailed Christina and I said, what do I do? I don't get it. These girls I'm at this great school, and I thought we were all so smart, and why are we not questioning this narrative? And she connected me with a lot of resources, and she really kind of helped me through, going through that socially and in an academic environment. And I didn't really think about her too much the rest of high school after that. Senior year I was applying to college and that kind of thing. And then I got to college. So I'm currently a rising sophomore. So I got to college last year, and I saw there was a pro-life club on campus. And I was like, gosh, this is amazing. This is so cool. There are other kids who, have this pro-life perspective. I want to meet these kids. And even though I go to Providence College, it's a Catholic school run by the Dominican order. And the club is actually very good size. We do various conferences throughout the year. I don't know if you've heard of Vita e Veritas.
No.
It's a pro-life conference at Yale every fall.
Have you heard of that, Bob? Hey, Bob? Bob's not there.
Say that again.
Listen, we go to a fall.
What's the name of the conference? What's the name of the conference?
Veritas.
Oh, Veritas. Yeah, I've heard of it. Yes.
Oh, you did. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Truth. So I went to that for the first time, and when I went, amazingly enough, the MC was Christina Bennett.
Oh.
I had spoken to her since my junior year of high school, and I thought it was conference. It was amazing. You know, we had all these different guest speakers from around the world, held in New Haven at Yale University, run by Yale's Pro-Life Club. It's this beautiful, beautiful conference, really amazing thing. And I was like, wow, like I'm really on fire for this. Like this is really, you know, setting something in me. And then we did the March for Life in D.C. in January, which was fantastic, an amazing gathering in which I actually got to see Vice President Pence speak. I got to see Kellyanne Conway speak. So really a lot of amazing people were there at that March for Life, which is probably the biggest pro-life gathering annually. So that was amazing. The first time the Vice President has ever come to the March for Life, which was very
That's
cool.
beautiful. Yeah, very
and
cool.
then so I'm like, wow, like I get to go with all these people. We stayed at a little Dominican church in D.C. We got to, you know, go through the city with all these people who shared this belief with us. And for me, that was amazing because, you know, I'm sure that it's, you know, that a lot of young people are really, you know, a lot of young people in kind of like the urban elite, you know, New England tend to push against, you know, identifying themselves as pro-life. Even if they are pro-life, you know, it's this kind of stigma against identifying yourself with the pro-life movement.
Right,
you know? And especially
right.
young people of faith, they're very afraid that, and I know I've experienced this myself, where, you know, you can say, okay, you know, I'm Christian. You know, that's okay. You still might be grouped with, you know, the pro-lifers, but you can just not talk about it, and you'll be fine, you know. But as soon as you start to say something about it, you know, you start to kind of get a little backlash. People aren't really, you know, too happy about it. So it was amazing to me that all these young people could come together and we could talk about this. It was the first time I really, you know, in college, it was the first time I was able to talk about this issue. And I think that it's difficult to talk about it in college because, I don't know if you know, but 51% of abortions are performed on women less than 25 years old.
Yeah.
51%.
Yeah.
So the college population is really the one who are, you know, driving the abortion industry. You know, because we're young, we're in school, and we might not have the ability to foresee, you know, the consequences of our actions.
Yeah.
And, I mean, at this point, there actually are, out of 20.5 million college students in the U.S., 4.8 million are raising children. So it's not like students don't, you know, keep their children, you know, young women who are in college, but it definitely, I think, is a huge part of the abortion industry is that this generation of college women. So it really, at this point, is relevant in my life to be part of this movement, and that's kind of where I am right now, you know, interning at a crisis pregnancy center, which is a life-affirming center, and really kind of showing me, you know, it's relevant to my life. Okay, what can I do to make a difference in it? And that's really where I am right now.
Wow, that's good though. So when you say how many when Vice President Pence was speaking to you, how many people were there? Was it a good crowd?
It was on the National Mall, and it right in front of the Washington, near like the Washington Monument. It was packed. I mean, when I tell you there were people from all over the nation, it was, I would say, close to 1 million. Like it was a huge, insane number of people there.
Really? And it was never with the news?
Even the most like liberal colleges have groups that they send. You know, if you picture how many colleges are across the country, you know, and how many students want to be part of this is high school students, college students, adults, children, families, like anybody can come to the March for Life. And so it is just so many different demographics of people that are there. And I think that's why the Vice President knew it was important to come, because so many people were there, so many people who are just, they're hungry for this to work. They want it so bad. And it is a huge demand, I think. I think a lot of people think that we put it on the back burner, but really the pro-life movement is flourishing. And more young people are starting to break out of their shells and wanting to talk about it. And I think that that the White House recognizes that.
Yeah, I think the White House is encouraging that. Go ahead, Bob.
I have a question. What, now that you're pro-life, you said that in high school, you know, many of the people were pro-choice, even some of your friends?
Oh, absolutely. Most of my friends were. And it wasn't something we were able to talk about.
What's their how do they react to you now?
To be honest with you, I don't really connect with a lot of my friends from high school. I have a few close friends who I talk to, and I have told them, you know, I went to the March for Life, I'm part of the Pro-Life Club, and they have expressed a lot of support because the high school that I went to really was all about kind of social justice and fighting for what's right. And I think that they know that I truly believe this is the right thing, and so they're happy for me for that. But at the same time, they still have that that rhetoric that we were really taught in high school, which is really, you know, it's that person's body, it's their choice, I can't say anything about it. It's not my place to give my opinion because I'm not the one going through it. So they still express that to me, that, you know, they still don't agree with me, but that they admire that I have, you know, a passion for something.
Yeah, good.
Well, we've been, unfortunately, there's a name for that, what happened to you in high school and through your school years. It's called brainwashing.
It's true. I agree with you there. Yeah. And I think it's because we are taught to kind of repeat these certain key phrases, you know, like my body, my choice, things like that. I think that we're just so, I guess brainwash is a good word. It's repeated over and over and over and ingrained in our minds that that is the truth and that is the right way, which, I mean, I think that goes back to the pro-life movement in general, is that that's really what happens to women, you know, that it is ingrained in our minds so much from the media and from our friends and from our teachers that it's okay, that it becomes a norm, that, you know, why would anybody question that? You know what I mean? Like, why would I question it's not okay, that it's okay for me to have an abortion, you know, that it's acceptable? It's because our whole lives, our teachers, the media, my generation right now, this millennial generation, we're so attuned to that that message, my body, my choice, that we don't even question it.
They just take it for granted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of sick when you hear it come through the schools like that, you know. That's because of lack.
That's where the majority of it comes from.
Yeah, that's when they took Christianity out back in the 60s. I think it was 1964 when they drove God out of the school system, out of government and everything. It was never intended to be a separation that way. The separation was so the government doesn't infiltrate the church. You know, not separation, no. The Constitution is based upon the morals of the Bible.
Absolutely.
And Christianity, period, you know.
But the crazy thing is, too, that, you know, I've come across this in a lot of discussions, and because I didn't go to a Catholic high school, I have come into this discussion with other people about this being a Christian idea. And while fundamentally the root of my belief of being pro-life is because I am a Christian, this is not just a Christian ideal. You know, going to these marches and to, you know, the Vitae Veritas conference at Yale, I know so many secular pro-life groups and so many different pro-life groups from so many different denominations and different religions. I mean, this is not just a Christian idea. You know, like the, you know, faith of Islam does not approve of abortion, you know.
Right.
It's not like just the Christian doctrine. So I think when people want to attack the pro-life agenda, they believe that they're attacking just the Christian agenda, which, of course, the Christian agenda is the pro-life agenda, but at the same time, you're attacking pro-life secularists, pro-life Jews, pro-life Muslims, pro-life, other people who, may not necessarily identify as Christian, that while it is a Christian ideal, it's not just Christian. It's anybody can really recognize that this is wrong.
Murder. There's no other way to describe it than murder, because they've proven now that life begins after about 7 days.
Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely true. And I think if you can't recognize that the life in the womb is a life, then how can we recognize that any other life is life? We have to recognize, like, I've heard just so many cockamamie excuses for why it's okay, and a lot of the excuses are, well, even if it's alive and even if it's a human being, they can't think properly, they can't reason, and so they're officially not a real person. That's not a person. It's a being, but not a person. So my response to that is really, okay, have you ever met somebody, or do you have a relative who has like a mental health condition, whether it be dementia or Alzheimer's or bipolar or something, and that person maybe can't reason correctly, and you think that they're not a person? So they're a human being, not a person? So it's over and over again that this is, of course, our ordained mission by Jesus Christ is to protect the vulnerable and to protect our brothers and sisters, but even on a logical level, you know what I mean? This is not something that is that difficult to grasp, I think.
No, you're right, and it goes even further now. It's what Bob says. It is murder. We have no right. Nobody has the right to take a life. And life really begins. The soul is assigned at conception.
Yes,
and
that's true.
And if it's not that, then what is it? I mean, take a look at your little pinky finger on your right hand, and tell me what keeps that together. When we're something like 98% water. Take your body weight, throw it on the ground, and say, "Get up." What happens? So if that's true, that we're all water, basically, what makes us who we are and what we look like?
Right.
There's only one answer. That's a soul, and that's assigned at birth.
Right.
And what does Jesus say? Woe to those who hurt my little ones. I really feel sorry for them, because they're doing self-condemnation, and the more they abort, the more they're going to be held responsible. And I'll go so far as saying this: those who believe that abortion is okay are just as guilty.
Yes.
It's like assisting a murderer, or like that girl's on trial for talking that young kid into murdering himself. She's just as guilty as he is.
Right. Right.
But of course she's got mental illness too, which whether she does or doesn't, I don't know. But basically by association or encouragement, you're going to be held accountable for it.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's another thing is that, with going through crisis pregnancy, which is a term that, we use a lot at the AFC Women's Center, a crisis pregnancy being an unexpected pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy, or a pregnancy in which the mother cannot care for the child. So in crisis pregnancy, women are often, they're very scared, and they're in a state where they are relying on the people around them to give them sound advice. And they may be in a place where they are not able to make, a decision with sound mind. And that's why we're very afraid of things like, for example, that girl who encouraged that guy to murder. Yeah. There are such thing as abortion coercion, right? Which is illegal. It's against the law. So if your boyfriend says to you, I will break up with you, you can't live in my house anymore, threatens you in any way to get you to have an abortion, that's illegal. If you are even a minor, say you're in high school and you get pregnant, and your parents say, if you don't have an abortion, you can't live here anymore, we won't send you to college, blah, 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 that's illegal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And don't realize that a lot of women who come into places like ABC, a lot of women who go into places like St. Gerard's in Hartford, women who come in crisis pregnancy, that they are being coerced. And I don't think that in a lot of sense, that our teachers, our social media, the things that we see online, the things that we see on TV, that is also a form of coercion, of coercing us into this mindset that abortion is okay.
Yeah, exactly. Abortion isn't okay.
Right.
I mean,
by the way,
go ahead,
By
Bob.
the way, when is that Veritas conference?
It's usually in September, I believe. I think it's September or October.
You don't have a date for it yet, huh?
I don't know if they've released the date yet this year. I can look online though.
But you're going to be going.
Yes.
This will be your first time there?
No, I went last year as well.
Wow. Sounds like a good one, huh?
It is, absolutely. And that's where I really learned of all the different groups that promote the pro-life movement. I learned about all these different places that have so many different motivations for supporting the pro-life movement. And actually, I'm just looking online now, and this year it is October 6th to 7th at Yale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
October 6th and 7th, huh?
Yes.
Now, is that who attends that basically? I would think most females, right?
No, it is a really big mix of different people, so different speakers. So, for example, last year, Christina was the MC, and this year she's actually going to be a speaker. Abby Johnson comes. We've had, Daniel Williams is coming this year, Kevin Burke, all different, speakers. So, for example, Daniel Williams is the Associate Professor of History at University of West Georgia. So he's an author of a pro-life book called The Defenders of the Unborn, the Pro-Life Movement, Roe Before Wade. Of course, Abby Johnson, pro-life activist, former Planned Parenthood clinic director, she's going to be giving a speech. Again, Christina Bennett, who is a client service manager at ABC Women's Center, which is Crisis Pregnancy Center. So it's really just all different people. I don't know if you know Rachel's Vineyard. Kevin Burke is the co-founder of Rachel's Vineyard, and he's a pastoral associate for Priests for Life. So it's really just all different types of people who have leverage in the pro-life movement, different people who have acted as leaders and who have experience in advocacy for pro-life legislation.
Okay, so if you're on the internet right now looking it up, could you give the listeners exactly, what date, what time? Is there a fee to go on there also?
So the conference again is called Vita e Veritas. It's at Yale University.
How do you spell that?
What's that?
Yeah, Bailey, how do you spell that?
Vita, V-I-T-A, Latin for life.
Okay.
A-E-T.
Okay.
And Veritas, V-E-R-I-T-A-S.
Okay. And that's October 6th and 7th.
Yes, October 6th and 7th. And you do have to register. You can register on Eventbrite. And the cost, I think, depends on whether you're a group or, I think, like who you're bringing with you or things like that.
Uh-huh. Is there a telephone number
$0 to $40
register?
registration fee.
Yeah.
The best thing is just look it up on the internet, Tony.
Yeah, but is there a telephone number we can put online? So not everybody will be on the internet, Bob.
Let me see.
I'm just curious. It's going to be at Yale, New
Yes.
Haven, Connecticut, right? Yale University.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see a telephone number on here.
Okay.
No, I don't see
Well, they
one
can contact Yale University under social justice, I guess, the department, right?
Probably, yeah.
I would think they might have the information. Okay.
Yeah, club on campus that sponsors this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going back to
Okay.
Providence next? Are you going back to Providence next year?
What's that?
Are you going back to Providence next year?
Yes. I'll be at college again this year.
What year are you starting this year?
My sophomore year.
Sophomore. Very good. Very good. All right. So Abby is a she's pro-life. I know that, and she was a director of an abortion clinic.
Yes.
And blindly enough, she did that for a few years, is what I understand.
Yeah.
And did she realize what she was doing, and she immediately got out of it? I'm not sure what triggered that. Do you know what triggered that?
Yes, it was because, this is actually a case of false advertising. Planned Parenthood does not offer ultrasounds that are not during an abortion appointment. So if you go into Planned Parenthood and ask for the prenatal service of an ultrasound, they cannot provide that to you. So she had not been, she had been a director. She hasn't really been in the room, with the women going through the abortions. And so, the only time that you see an ultrasound is during that abortion appointment. And so she was there for an appointment, and she saw the ultrasound. And that was really the turning point, when she realized that she did not condone abortion.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I mean, it's true for a lot of women, and that's exactly why they don't offer ultrasounds as a prenatal service.
Right. Yeah, because they can see the baby.
Right, and it kind of makes it real. Because when a baby is in the first trimester, it's so small. You can't feel it. You can't feel that little flutter. You can't feel, the baby moving. And so it's very difficult, I think, for you to be able to understand that this is real. This is a real human life, because it's so small and you can't really feel it. But when you
for the listeners, my experience, and it really bothers me. I heard about 2 months ago, when I started to hear a little bit more about the abortion stuff, is that when they put in the suction cup, which is basically a vacuum cleaner, that they videotape the infant literally moving away from it, trying to get away from it.
Yeah.
And that stuck in my mind, and I think that's kind of sick for anybody. They should all see that before they even decide to have an abortion.
Yeah.
And those who have had an abortion better go and get penance, have penance, get it confessed. Because that to me is just ridiculous, and I don't care what the circumstances are with that, unless it's life or death situation. Then there may be a rule there for an exception, but even with that, I know that some people come out of it and some don't. And who are we to play God? And God help those who are performing the abortions.
Right.
What you think they're not going to get? They're going to get away with it. They're not going to be. They're going to be judged because of that. Period.
Right. And the thing is that this is the whole reason why again, like, ultrasounds are not offered as a prenatal service, because once you see that, again, I don't know how really. I've read so many. I don't know if you know Live Action. It's like a news source, a pro-life news source that really covers the pro-life industry. And they, are on social media posting all these articles of doctors who, really have these conversions of hearts. Like, some, in their careers, they reach a certain point where they will see a child that will actually survive abortion. Because oftentimes there are abortion complications, which people don't talk about, where there can be perforation of the uterus. There can be parts left inside the mother, because during two of the most common types of abortions, which are dilation and curettage and dilation and evacuation, the parts are essentially broken up inside the mother's womb, and then taken out. And so there can be parts left inside the mother. Again, just different things that can happen. And doctors can see, sometimes one of the complications is that the child will survive the abortion. The child will be outside of the womb, if they're not going through dilation, curettage, dilation, or evacuation, and they will survive. And the doctors sometimes see that, and it's like, again, once you have that visual of a healthy, living child, I think that is really the turning point for most people, is when you have that visual through an ultrasound, through a child that has survived abortion, that this is a human being. There is no denying it. Yeah,
you're right. That's right. You can't get away with it. Even if you don't see it, we're telling you that's a living being.
Right.
Period.
For some people, it takes them that visual, but it shouldn't take the visual. We should understand from the very beginning that this is a human life.
Yeah, and they don't talk about, from what I understand, is the aftermath psychologically with these, when the women do perform that. You don't hear anything about that.
I think one of the greatest things that the pro-life movement suffers is the misconception that, what I've heard from a lot of people who are pro-choice is that, the pro-life movement, you're up and done, you coax women into these centers and convince them to not have abortions, and then they have a child and no money, and then you just say, okay, good luck. That's not the case. It's because when somebody comes into a place like ABC Women's Center, if they've had an abortion, right, and they go through this mental trauma,
right,
we have Forgiven and Set Free program, which is, a post-abortive program for moms who have gone through abortions. And honestly, it's not our job to judge. The Lord is the one who will judge us at the end of our lives. And we don't have that right to judge women who have gone through that. Because like you said, it is a physical and emotional trauma. But what we can do is to support these women in healing and moving on from the experience in order to help other women not have to go through that. You know what I mean? So it's a tough thing because, you have to support women through their entire pregnancy journeys. You have to support women who, have chosen abortion and are suffering from the consequences of that. You have to support them through that recovery. You have to support women through adoption and help them to get resources for adoption. And you have to help women who choose parenting, to give them parenting resources, so that they can be, the most, the best physically and mentally able to take care of their children. I think a lot of times the pro-life movement can come solely from that angle of it's about the baby, the baby, the baby, the baby, and we forget about the mother. But the mother is the one who is really going through these, emotional challenges during a crisis pregnancy. And, it's really our job to serve the mother as well as the child, because the mother is going to be the one who has to care for the child while the child's in her womb and while the child, after the child is born. So it's really, I think a big focus of the pro-life movement has to come from our desire to serve the mothers who are going through a crisis pregnancy. It has to really be focused about the mother and the mother's mental and physical ability and material ability to care for her child.
Mm. Yeah.
How do you answer people when they say, well, it's the woman's right?
Well, I think that it's not a woman. I think that just because if I was younger and I caused if I was a baby, a newborn baby, and I was causing a financial inconvenience to my mother, or I was causing an emotional inconvenience to my mother, that that's not okay. There's nothing different from the moment when they're just before being born, when they're in the womb, and the moment after they're out of the womb. In neither situation does my mother have a right to get rid of my life, to end my life. That's God's right. God is the one who has the right to begin or end a life, and He chooses in His divine sight, in His divine grace, It's so fascinating. There are so many mothers around the world going through crisis pregnancies and unwanted pregnancies. And there are so many women in the world struggling with infertility. How do we don't have the right to decide who, is infertile and who is fertile, who, has their life ended and who doesn't. And that's why the pro-life agenda also includes euthanasia. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have the right to decide. It's not my right to decide when somebody's life ends, no matter whether that life is in the womb or that life is outside of the womb. That's just nobody's right except the Lord's.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So it all started back in the 70s when Pope Paul VI wrote his encyclical on contraception, and he said contraception is opening Pandora's box, because first it's contraception, and then it goes right along with abortion and euthanasia and what else,
Right, and I think that, I think contraception is a really interesting issue. I recently spoke at a local Catholic high school in Middletown, and something that the students really wanted to talk about when I was speaking about the abortion issue and about Planned Parenthood, and they really want to talk about contraception. And I think that is really one thing that turns young people off to the pro-life movement, is the idea that that contraception being seen as a bad thing, when, again, this is one thing that Christina really made me think about the way I approach contraception, like in thought, is that, when Margaret Sanger is handing out contraception, she's a birth control activist to low-income and minority populations, really, there are documents of her saying, this will make sure that, these minorities are not reproducing, and these will make sure, that we will not have as many, children, like minority children in the world, and that we'll have less of them in the world. Like, this is really the beginning, the origins of contraception. You know what I mean? It's not like it had, this beginning that it turned into, that, I have the right to control when I have children. It was really about population control, and it was about controlling the amount of minorities in the world. And it was really, you know what I mean? It was like kind of
exactly,
trying to control, how many minorities there were, which is a very sad thing, especially in light of, like recent events, which we have, you know what I mean, this white supremacist message being thrown about the world, which is, just terrible and awful thing happening. And you know what? It's coming back again. This is happening. What happened with Margaret Sanger? It's happening again. It's because people haven't learned from it.
Yeah. Bob, are you back on?
Yeah.
What happened there?
I don't know. Something just stopped. Did you know that Margaret Sanger's from Connecticut?
Yes.
No. Oh, she is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was trying to do, basically, she was genociding the blacks. That's her goal.
I think it was Jesse Jackson. I think Christina told me this, that Jesse Jackson actually called Margaret Sanger's work the first black genocide.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
In Cincinnati,
really
you see billboards all over Cincinnati. Abortion is the greatest killer of blacks, more so than cancer or any of these other ailments.
Do you think that
abortion is the greatest killer of blacks?
Yeah. Well, do you think that Parenthood is so strategically placed in low-income and minority neighborhoods? It's
that's right.
Founder Planned Parenthood continues today. Her agenda continues today.
Right, that's true. I did get some information about Abby Johnson, by the way, if I can inject just a little bit. She's CEO and founder of her group. It's ATTWN at ATTWN Ministry. If you look that up on the internet, you can get more information. But she shares this. When I left the abortion industry in 2009, I knew that my calling was to work with current and former abortion clinic workers. Honestly, I know the deception of the abortion industry very well. I started working at Planned Parenthood in 2001 and progressed to the position of Health Center Director. In the last year of my employment, many things began to disturb me. The increase in our clinic's abortion quota, our new desire to expand late-term abortion services, and in the end, watching a 13-year-old child in the womb struggle for his life during an abortion procedure. I started this ministry because I realized that there must be many people like me, people who want to leave the industry but feel alone. We never want a lack of money or fear of acceptance to be a reason that somebody stays in the abortion industry. We often say that women deserve better than abortion. We believe clinic workers deserve better too. I graduated from my university with an undergraduate degree in psychology and a graduate degree in counseling. The most important thing to know is that I believe in forgiveness, mercy, and redemption. No one is beyond the amazing power of Christ and His love. I live in Texas with my husband and my 4 beautiful children.
Just beautiful. Absolutely accurate.
Yeah, that's who. She's really something else. I saw a videotape of her. If you get on the internet, her name again is Abby, Abby Johnson, Johnsson. And if you get on the internet, you can listen to her. She's very, 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 very powerful speaker. It moves in many, many directions. And Bob, I think you know her, right?
Do I know her? No.
Oh, you didn't know? Okay. I just thought if maybe she spoke down at my father's house.
No, but I was going to add something that is kind of important. That a few years ago, I ran into one of the governor's candidates was running for election, and he came up and shook hands with me, and I said, I asked him, I want to make sure. I said, "What's your stand on abortion?" I said, "How do you feel about killing babies?" And he said, "Oh no, I'm not for abortion." I said, "Well, what's your public stand?" Well, he said, "That's a woman's right." And so I said, "Well, I couldn't vote for you." And he said, "Well, you couldn't have voted for my opponent either then." See, that's a sad thing.
Wow.
That's the thing. I think that's where I truly think that's where my hope comes from, actually, with the pro-choice movement, is that most of the people that I know personally that are pro-choice don't believe abortion is morally right. They don't believe that abortion is good, but they also don't think that they have the right to tell somebody else that it's wrong. It's because people are afraid of saying, "I don't agree with what you're doing is wrong." People are afraid to say that. So they hide under the pro-choice label saying, well, yes, it's wrong. Abortion is not right. Abortion is murder. But it's your decision, not mine. So you know what I mean? So they have that social acceptance of I'm pro-choice, but they also have that inner, they don't have a guilty conscience because they believe, well, I don't think abortion is right. I would never get an abortion.
Yeah, that's propaganda.
Right.
I'll tell you
what that is.
Let me finish this on politicians.
Yeah.
When a politician comes to your house, and even if he's just running for county clerk or whatever he's running with, no matter what the office is, you ask him what his pro-life stand is. Okay?
Yeah.
And if he's pro-choice, then you say, I can't vote for you. because you want to nip it in the bud. Because this governor candidate, he must have ran maybe for some other offices, and if they win, then they get this confidence to go on further, maybe as a state senator, maybe U.S. senator, and so forth. So you want to ask every political candidate when they come to your house or wherever you see them, make sure you find out what their stand is, their pro-life or pro-choice stand, and then you tell them, well, I couldn't vote for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, I think a lot of politicians play both sides.
Sure.
Well, that's
like you were saying earlier. Of course, they can tell people, like I know of politicians that have said to people that I know who are in advocacy, oh yeah, of course I would not support somebody from NARAL, or I wouldn't support, Planned Parenthood or whatever, and then, they're out supporting them. Really, it truly is.
I know.
The deception is unbelievable. And I definitely agree that it's so important to tell our politicians. I think especially, a lot of male politicians say, well, it's like such a thing to be a man that says, oh, it's a woman's right, it's a woman's right. It's such a big thing, and people just eat that up. But I think it's time for the women to start calling out the politicians and saying, well, guess what? I'm a woman, and, I don't think that this is okay. You know what I mean? I definitely agree
right.
that
That's
voicing
good.
that opinion is so important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't, I don't know. It's just,
I like that you're giving talks in high schools. How often have you done that? I like the idea you're doing talks in high schools.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why when Christina came to my confirmation group at church, I was in a very vulnerable time in my life where I was getting messages from, my school was telling me one thing and my home, family, and church was telling me another thing. And I didn't know who was right or who to trust because, you're in the stage in your life where they say, listen to your teachers, listen to the authority figures in your life. And so we do. Kids wholeheartedly believe it. And then, all the kids get together and there's really this just, I think, heated discussion about feminism, and are you a feminist or not, and whether the pro-lifers can be feminists. And I think that's where a lot of the pressure from young women comes to not be pro-life, is because, to be a feminist is so trendy and such a fad that, and of course pro-lifers can't be feminists. You can't, all of a sudden believe in things like, equal pay, or you can't say yes, pro-woman. Somehow the message got lost that pro-life is pro-woman. It's this false sense of feminism that, being for abortion is for women, when the opposite is true. Being for life is being for women, and I Abby Johnson is definitely a huge example of that, in campaigning for a new kind of feminism, where she understands. I mean, it says on her website, that we need feminists to understand that abortion exploits women, and that by proposing in the feminist agenda that abortion liberates women, that they're deceiving. They're deceiving women.
Yes. Yep. Well, because what they're trying to do, and you've heard the term political correctness, right?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, so let me give you a definition of what political correctness really means. 2 words. It's called Sharia law. Think about that one. Because in Sharia law, if I can shut up my opponent, I can do anything I want. Make sense?
Mhm.
That's what it means, political correctness. And right now, we're in a state of religious wars that are going on. It's not between countries. It's evil against goodness. That's what this is all about. And the foundation of this comes from Pope Leo the 13th, with his prophetic vision that he saw Satan boasting that he can take over God's people, but that God doesn't give him free will. So God allowed that free will to occur, and that's why we're in the midst of what we are. So that's all called deceit. Everybody's being deceived to some degree.
Yeah,
and I'm glad
that,
you're a voice in the wind.
When you have all these three Abrahamic faiths that all believe in the dignity of a human life, that it can be distorted so awfully. You know what I mean? And I think that it's so difficult to unite over the pro-life movement sometimes across these different borders of faith with secular pro-lifers, and for Christian pro-lifers to be on the same page as Muslim pro-lifers, because everybody has their own, agenda for abortion, that, abortion is bad unless in this special case, or abortion is bad, until after a certain number of weeks. You know what I mean? Everybody has their own different particularities of when abortion is okay, under what circumstances abortion is okay. I think that makes it really difficult to unite the pro-life movement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so how's it feel to be a little John the Baptist girl?
What's that?
You're out there proclaiming just like John the Baptist, proclaiming second coming of Christ. Well, you are. That's what it's about.
Exactly.
And I commend you for that. Go ahead, Bob. You had something?
Let's see. What time we got? Yeah, we got about 4 minutes yet. What was I going to say? Probably wasn't important, so let's go on.
Yeah, all right. So anyways, so that's what Bailey, you're a little John the Baptist, and you know what? Go forward, because you know what? This is what this century is all about. And you've heard it from the White House. Say what you want about Donald Trump, but I've heard that he's for what I'm reading, he's anointed. Why do I say that? Because I see where he's given the power back to the church, saying, you priests, your pastors, you rabbis, you speak out. You too have the First Amendment right. And then he's bringing back prayer into it. He always says, bless this nation, bless everything, And then that, Vice President Pence, for the first time, went to that conference.
Right, to the March for Life.
That says a lot.
I was very impressed with how passionate he was personally for the pro-life movement. And also Kellyanne Conway was there. So 2 White House officials were there, which was amazing. But I think for me personally, I feel that, all we can do for any president that we have is to just pray that elected official will have the wisdom. And one of the most poignant images for me was there were a group of, I think, evangelicals praying over President Trump in the White House, and that image was mocked by a lot of people who are not Christian, and that was really, really hurtful, I think. But I think that we're charging ahead anyways, that there is a lot of respect for the church and a lot of encouragement for the church to flourish, so I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, and those people that were against it and mocked him are under Satan's influence.
Right.
They may not realize it, but they are.
Under that deceit, exactly.
Yep, exactly is right. Well, very interesting.
Well, Tony, we're out of time.
Okay. Thank you, Bailey.
Let's thank our guest.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable, very enlightening, and we'll be praying for your college.
Yes, thank you so much. I moved
that you're a force. Keep up the good work. You're going to bring many more with you.
Absolutely, and I definitely encourage anybody to look into going to the Vitae Veritas conference, to checking out the March for Life in January. And just being able to, like we were talking about, talking to your elected officials about the abortion issue and making your voice heard, and just knowing that, you're not alone in the pro-life movement, that it's a flourishing movement.
Okay,
you
send
can
me an
listen
email
to
with
the
that
messenger.
information.
What's
Yep,
that?
go ahead,
Listen
Bob.
to the messenger with Tony Szalkiewicz and his guest, and we'll be back next week, same time, same station, with another interesting edition of the Messenger. So in the meantime, may God bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to everlasting life. Amen.
Amen. God bless.
Amen.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.